Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Mikey, and as you can tell from the title, I just lost my job after 18 years of being with my company. I'm making this video primarily because through looking back at my career, I made some crucial mistakes and I want to share that with you. In case you're like in the middle of your career or just starting your career, you can think about these things so that you don't get to a place where I am currently at, where I feel so lost and incompetent and have major imposter syndrome about moving forward in my career. And I'm also making this video for my current community and subscribers because I was thinking of just mentioning this in a vlog in passing, but it is such a big life-changing moment and a defining moment for me in my life, but also my career and my relationship with my husband. So I decided to make a separate video for this to talk about it with you guys and kind of just tell you a little bit about my story and my career and my workplace, because I haven't really mentioned a lot about my work in my vlogs. So when I decided to make a video about this, I thought about scripting it, but that felt kind of disingenuous. So I decided to just have like a little sit down chit chat moment with you guys. I'm currently on the floor because I feel grounded here. I was like literally trembling before hitting the record button. But in terms of just like structuring the video, I am gonna break it up into 3 sections so I'm not all over the place. The first part, I'm just gonna talk about sort of my history with the company and my career and what I do. And then the second part is gonna be about the mistakes I've made throughout my career as I look back now that things have happened and has hit the floor. It's so clear the mistakes I made. Those mistakes are contributing to how I'm feeling now in terms of feeling lost. And then 3, kind of like, where do we go from here, how I'm feeling, and what's next for me. Why did I lose my job? Basically, my company is going out of business. We are liquidating our assets. Just weren't able to recover from 2020 and the pandemic. We were an online business retailer in the fashion space. So quick backstory about how I started with the company. 18 years ago, I basically applied as a photographer, and at the time it was a startup company. They were like in their first year, so I feel like I was really part of the core team being there for 18 years. So in the first 10 years of working with the company, business was amazing. The growth was exponential, sales were great, and I was able to move my way up in the creative field. And so each step of the way, I went from photographer to web designer to creative manager, and basically made my way all the way up to the creative director position for the company. Along each step of the ladder, I had opportunities to learn from people above me. So there was a lot of growth between those first 10 years. So yeah, the first 10 years was amazing. It was as good as it could be for a startup company. But I think what ended up happening was we grew way too fast in a short amount of time. And I know that 10 years sounds like a lot of time, but within that 10 years for us, we grew so big. We went from like a team of, I want to say 30 to over maybe 200 or so. So that growth was huge. Within that 10-year mark, things started to get a little bit shaky with the company. We had more competitors in the online retail space, especially when it came to fashion. So here we are in year 10 and sales were slowing down. So that leads me to my first mistake. That should have been my first inkling of really thinking about my future with the company. When there's a decline in growth for the business or the company you're working for, that usually trickles down to its employees. And I saw that firsthand. In the first 10 years with the company, I was traveling a lot for work. We would do photo shoots in New York. Fun fact, one of Nicki Minaj's first photo shoots was actually with us. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture and post it right here. By the way, she was awesome. She wasn't even famous back then, but she carried herself like she was famous. She had an entourage with her. She talked the way she talked. She was manifesting before that became a trending word. But anyways, so yeah, I was doing a bunch of stuff. I was continuing my growth in my field. I was going to conferences. I was taking courses. Basically, there was a lot of opportunity within those 10 years with my company for them to fund my growth as a creative professional. So as sales were dropping, so was budgets for things like training and increased growth within your departments. So that was my first mistake of not realizing that and figuring out a plan for job security or for my future. So looking back, I wish I would have got other job offers from other companies to be able to take that to the table for my employers to negotiate certain things in my contract. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that like business wasn't doing as well as it was, so it shouldn't be a play for me to try to make more money or get a bigger raise or promotion. But what it could have done was allow me to negotiate maybe a severance package, I wouldn't be in a position where I am now, where I'm fearful and trying to scramble to figure out what I'm going to do. Looking at current severance packages right now, just by a simple Google search, I've seen some where it was like 2 weeks of pay for every year, or even a month's worth of pay for every year you've been with the company. And so like if I had 1 month's pay for every year that I've been with the company, that would give me 18 months to figure out what I need to do. That would have been such a lifesaver, and that's something you really need to think about when you're starting your career. Obviously in lower level positions when you're starting, I'm not sure if it's normal to put in a severance package in your contract, but if you are a seasoned professional and going into a job, that's definitely something you want to think about. Or if you've been with your company for a while and you're like looking on to getting a promotion, or you get another job offer and present that to the table, that is definitely something you should be including in your contract so that when shit hits the fan, you'll be okay for a while. Another thing I want to quickly mention too about getting job offers and presenting that to your employer, that is also a risk, because if you love your job and they can't match or aren't willing to match, you could potentially lose your job and have to move on. But I think that's a position you should be willing to take when your growth in your company isn't where it needs to be, or when you feel like you're stagnant in your company. You don't want to be left behind in your career or your field. And if your company is not willing to negotiate and offer you better terms in your contract or your salary, that kind of should just show you that they don't value the way you see your value, and it's time to move on. So mistake number 2 kind of falls in line with the first mistake, but that was not continuing my growth in my field. I think what happened was I was so used to the first 10 years of having my company provide me those opportunities to grow in my field by sending me to conferences or paying for continued education or certifications for programs or things like that. And so it just kind of didn't cross my mind that I could do that myself. I could fund those myself. I could have continued learning for myself. But it's one of those things when you're just in it, you don't really think about it, and then when you're out of it, it becomes so clear, unfortunately. But you want to always make sure that there's some room for improvement and growth in your career, and whether that's your company helping you do that or whether you're doing that for yourself, I think that's really important so that when it comes time to be back in the job market, you don't feel lost or behind. Because right now, I'm having the most major imposter syndrome in my life, because I'm looking at these job listings and I'm thinking, my God, I am so not prepared for this. I feel so behind, like 5 years behind. And as I'm talking about this too, I realize that not every career and company is the same. Your field might be totally different than it is in the creative field. I'm just speaking from my own experience and what I'm going through. Basically, in the creative field, it is an ever-growing, ever-evolving field. There are new roles, there are new programs, there's new hardware, there's new certifications to be certified for. It's just an ever-growing field. And so that's why these mistakes matter in my field. Things that I'm talking about now, about the mistakes I did, might not apply to you entirely, but I still think you can get a little bit out of that. Like, I still think you should be definitely having a conversation about putting a good severance package into your contracts, especially if you've been with the company for a while. But again, like I said, all situations are different. Mine was a startup company in which I knew I couldn't retire with them. I knew there was a point where I had to move on. Just as an example of a different situation is my husband Donnie. He's a nurse. He's been at his hospital for 20 years now, and he sees himself retiring there, so that's fine. That's a normal sort of progression of that career. And then finally, the third mistake, looking back at my career, which I think is just the mistake that overall is the umbrella of everything I've talked about today, is I was just way too comfortable in my position, in my company, and in my career. And that led me to not really think about my future and falling behind. Maybe in hindsight too, I was just scared to think about the future because I knew I was behind, or I knew that this couldn't be forever. It's literally my dream job, and I knew that dream job had to end, so maybe that's why I didn't really think about the future, because I was scared to. I will say though, there's nothing bad about being comfortable in your position or in your job. I think those can be good feelings to have as long as you are still continuing to grow. And there has to be something said about being with your company for so long and you're at this top part of your position, and there should be a sense of comfortability there because you put in the hard work, you put in your dues, you put in the years of work, and now you're kind of just managing, delegating, you're giving your expertise about your wisdom of being with that company for so long. And so now you're able to kind of sit back a little, delegate, and let other people under you kind of do the grunt work, but you still should be continuing to grow in some way. And so that's why I don't want to twist around that word of comfortability, because I think overall that might be the goal for everyone when they reach a certain spot in their company or their career. And I'm also not like a professional advisor of careers or anything like that. I'm just speaking from my experience in hopes that it might help someone out there. So yeah, those are the top mistakes when I look back at my career and how those mistakes are leading to how I'm feeling today about just feeling really lost and not knowing what the future holds. I know people lose their jobs all the time and this is nothing new, but I do think that if you can avoid those mistakes and you do lose your job, you would be at a better position than I am now because you have things to fall back on. You aren't feeling like you're so far behind in your career or your field, and you can just hit the ball running, throw your resume out there and just apply for other jobs and get your interviews and hopefully land a new job. I know a lot of friends who have done that, and I've talked about this with them prior to losing my job, that was my biggest fear of feeling left behind or not being good enough or imposter syndrome. So yeah, if you guys are starting a career, be mindful of those things. Or if you're in the middle of your career and you're going through a transition where you think you might need to move on, be mindful of everything I've said. That might help you. Okay, so where do we go from here? Honestly, I have no clue. Like I said time and time again in this video, I feel so lost. I will say though, despite how I feel, I have a little bit of optimism in me, and that stems from I know I was comfortable for so long, so now it's time to actually light a fire under my behind and get the ball rolling and figure out the next steps and try to rebuild the second chapter of my career, whether that is continuing on in this path or it could be a complete pivot into something else. I really have no idea. But you know, as they say, when you go through a traumatic thing, you shouldn't be making big life decisions, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm gonna just take a few weeks to figure things out, let things soak in, and yeah, kind of just take things slow. It's funny because after the holidays, I had all this content planned about taking things slow, but with that said, I wasn't trying to manifest taking it this slow. I wasn't trying to manifest losing my job so I would have more time to take things slow. But that's life, and that's just how things go. Ebbs and flows, ups and downs. One thing though I am sure of is I am still gonna continue to do YouTube. This is my passion project. It's what I love to do, and now that I have some time on my hands, there are a few videos I really wanted to film but haven't because I haven't had the time. So I'm hoping to get to that before I jump into trying to find a job. Obviously, I would love to just do this as a living, but I'm currently making coffee money on YouTube. Also, I just want to say, if you've been in a similar position or situation, or if you even have just some advice, please comment down below. I think I really need to hear it right now, especially if you've like literally lost your job and you have a positive story about this. Tell me down below. Also, before I go, I just wanted to shout out my husband Donnie. I know I'm fortunate enough to have a partner with me who supports me, and you know, we'll be okay for a while. I mean, obviously it is a big financial rut in our situation, not having that steady form of income on my part, and I feel so terrible because I just hate not doing my part when it comes to our partnership. But I am grateful that he's there for me, and so is my family, and I know I'll be okay. We'll be okay. We just gotta adjust our lifestyle a little bit to be more frugal about things. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out there because I know there are other people in similar situations of losing their jobs and they don't have anyone or people to rely on, and so I know that could be even scarier, so that's not lost on me. And lastly, I just want to say a big thank you because I know my loyal subscribers and my community are going to be down in the comments throwing all their love and support. I just want to say thank you. Like, I'm getting a little bit emotional about it because I know you guys are going to be like, you got this and you guys have my back, so I just want to give a thank you in advance. Yeah, so I guess with that said, I'll just see you guys in the next video. Choose happy over sad. Bye.